Holy cow, it's a lot of ribbing. Guess what? I'm not a knitwear designer.
I'm Nora, and this is also known as Nora Knits.
Hey friends, welcome to my channel. You are watching also known as Nora Knits, and I am Nora. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I have another podcast episode for you, and I decided to go a little bit rogue this week. So I didn't plan anything. It's been a pretty busy week. And so I figured the best thing to do would just be to sit down and chat, and let's just be casual. And who knows what this might turn into, but I just didn't want a week to go by without a podcast episode. So thanks so much for being here. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say one more time that we are quickly approaching the end of October, which is so crazy. I don't know where the time goes. But this month, I have been hosting or presenting this challenge that I'm calling Spooky Stitches 2023, in which I challenge you to try something spooky, something that really spooks you in your knitting, your making, your crafting, in your life, whatever you want to do, and just go out of your comfort zone a little bit. I have been enjoying so much seeing what you guys have tagged me in over on Instagram. It's just so interesting, like coming up with this idea. You never know, is someone going to actually participate? Does anyone care to do something like this? And then you guys surprise me week after week, which just shouldn't surprise me anymore because those of you who have been here have been just so incredible in engaging with me and really giving me this friendship and community that I started this channel for. So thank you so much to those of you who have already participated. And I just want to say one more time that I'm so proud of you and I'm so impressed that you went out of your comfort zone and did something different. It's not easy. It's not easy to do that different cast on or bind off or just new technique in general. It's scary as adults, especially. We're not used to trying new things. It's just very different for us, and to learn something new can be really daunting. So that was the whole point of this challenge, and I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying it, and I'm enjoying seeing from my point of view what's been going on, and I've also been able to learn some things along the way from what you guys have shared. So just a reminder, that's hashtag Spooky Stitches 2023, and we're going to be running that challenge through the end of October. And I hope that you take advantage to just try something new, something that spooks you a little bit. With that, let's go ahead and dive into our whips at the moment. The first whip that I have on the needles, I'm just gonna gloss by really quick because I have not touched this since the last time I saw you guys. So still just have this guy on ice for just a little bit. I am still incredibly excited to have this finished object. It's just not the week for me to pay attention to it. And that is so okay. Osie bear. I'm telling you guys, nothing happens here literally all day long. And then I sit down to film and people show up to deliver things. The dogs are running wild outside. She's running wild. I think it's really funny that you guys enjoy, this is going to be a chatty one. I think it's funny, and thank goodness that you guys enjoy the animated Osie that pops up. I decided to do that because I knew that it would be absolutely impossible to keep her completely quiet throughout an episode. And I didn't want to be constantly cutting out her barking when it was overlapping with things that I was trying to say, because it's just impossible. There's a lot going on around here apparently. And yeah, we can't stop her from making noise. So good thing you guys like it. But I don't remember what I was saying other than I haven't worked on my core Chapman cardigan. Oh, you know, it's funny. I was watching, oh, I can't think of the name of her channel right now. I will post it here. But she was talking about knitting another pattern from this same designer that is in this same basket weave family. So I've been pronouncing this as the Korshavn cardigan by Tanya Hodney. And she said the pattern name and the designer's name when I was watching her podcast the other day. And I was like, oh, is that what I'm supposed to be saying? I really do try so hard to pronounce these things properly. I'm going to see if I can pull up who it was. Oh gosh, I'm never going to remember it, am I? Something like APT Atelier? Mhm. It is.
Here, a picture of it here. This is a sweater by Tonya Helton.
Tonya Helton? Is that what it's supposed to be? And I've been saying Tanya Hodney. Anyway, I can't find the way that she pronounced Korshavn.
The Korshavn sweater by Strikkekaffe, which is Tonya Hodja, I think is how you say her name.
But it was like Korshavn by... I don't know. It wasn't Korshavn by Tanya Hodney, so I apologize. That's my best attempt. I try really hard, guys, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. That's okay. I speak English and I try my best with the other languages, but you're always welcome to correct me down in the comments. So yeah, this has not received any love or attention this week, but that's okay. It's a basic sweater. It's gonna get attention when it's time for that. So just breezing through that one. I also, because I didn't plan, will have to just put the timeline of how long I've been working on these projects right next to me here. And so you can read the amount of days that these projects have been on the needles, which is something that I introduced in the podcast last week as per your request. So here. The next longer term project that I've had on my needles is my Ranunculus. I did get just a little bit of work done on this week. It was actually, I don't know if you guys are sports fans, but recently I got into watching soccer. As some of you may know or have heard, the greatest player of all time, the GOAT, Mr. Messi, has joined the Miami team here in the US. So my boyfriend and I have been trying to catch those games, even though he was actually out for a little bit. We still have just been watching the games because it's given us something to kind of look forward to. And one of my favorite things is being able to have some stockinette in the round on the needles that I can work on without looking while we watch the games. So usually I get about halfway through the game and I realize that I haven't worked on it in a few minutes because the game got too exciting. But honestly, it's been something that I look forward to so much that we used to watch a lot of football when Tom Brady played. And since he stopped playing, I just haven't, I don't know, we kind of lost interest in the sport. And that was something, though, that I would always look forward to. And so now I do really look forward to watching a soccer game and getting to just pull out my stockinette in the round. And it gives me a good excuse to work on it and make a little bit of progress here and there. So I'm still working my way through the body of this one. And whenever I'm getting close to the end of the body, probably before I bother doing any ribbing at the hem, I will jump into the sleeves just so that I can be really careful about conserving yarn, as I do only have 3 skeins of this yarn, the Malabrigo Sussurro in the colorway Frank Ochre, and I am already through about 1.5 skeins, certainly 1, but I am about halfway through the 2nd skein, maybe not quite just yet. It's been, I mean, the yarn really does go a long way, so I'm not really worried about it. And I've said from the beginning of this project that I accepted flexibility with my expectations on this one. So that's why I'm going to get the body to a kind of reasonable length, I think, and then start on the sleeves. And at that point, I can decide if I need to cut corners somewhere, what is going to be the higher priority for me. I'm not necessarily one to wear a crop top. Well, no, I am not one to wear a crop top. I would never wear a crop top, but I do wear high-waisted jeans exclusively. You will not catch me in a pair of low-rise jeans. I don't care how in fashion they are. It's not happening for me. So I love a pair of high-waisted jeans, and therefore I generally don't feel too fussy about the length of something as long as it just barely overlaps my high-rise jeans. And I mean, some of my jeans are super high rise. So as long as I can get it to overlap the button on the front of my jeans, I'm fine with that length because I pretty much exclusively will French tuck it, even if it is longer. Saying that out loud now, I might even, again, just depending on yarn conservation and things, or if I'm at a point where I feel like I have an abundance of yarn left over, I don't feel like I have so much experience to the point where I can necessarily gauge those things off the top of my head. So if I'm feeling like I have a lot of yarn left over after I've done the sleeves, I would even consider adding maybe some German short rows to the hem of this sweater in the body so that I can have a sort of high-low front to back hem, because I do like to French tuck something. I wouldn't mind it having that little bit of shaping. So I'm flexible on this. We're chugging along. Something that I've noticed is working with this yarn after having worked with the wool in my Corshavin cardigan and after having worked with the two yarns that I'm holding together in my Like pullover, which is 100% wool and then a silk alpaca blend, is this yarn is so incredibly lightweight. Plus I'm working it on my wooden Knit Picks needles. I don't know how to explain it other than it feels so lightweight in my hands that it's a little uncomfortable. If you've ever worked out before and tried to do squats, say, if you do a squat without any weight, I personally, maybe this is a personal problem, but I personally find it difficult to kind of engage those muscles and move the right way. And I find it more difficult to do a squat with zero weight. Whereas if you give just a little bit of resistance, then it's almost like you're telling your body what it is that you're supposed to be working at that moment. So I find that having a little bit of resistance is easier than no resistance when it comes to lifting weights. And I'm feeling kind of a similar sensation with the knitting and working with a yarn that has a little bit more resistance. It's a little bit of weight. You can feel it in your hands. Same with the needles, which is why I think that I'll be getting the Knitter's Pride Nova Platina metal needles because I like the weight in my hand. And I've heard other people comment on the weight of needles as a negative review. So I think, I mean, it's all down to personal preference. We all know that. For me personally, I'm finding that having little to no resistance in this silk, very lightweight yarn feels like there's I don't know, I struggle just a little bit more when trying to knit this. That being said, the fabric is beautiful, it's drapey, it's lightweight. My eagerness, I just want to own this project so badly. And that's where I'm coming from, so in the last episode, I was talking about this struggle of feeling pressure to finish objects and pressure to knit on everything every week. And you guys were so kind, so supportive in letting me know that you don't need to see a finished object every week to keep coming back. And that's great because the reality is that I just like to talk about knitting and I don't have anyone to talk to about it. So, well, my boyfriend, he gets a good earful of knitting stuff that I'm sure he could care less about. So that's why I want to talk to you guys. So by you saying that, I feel my camera ran out of space. I forgot to delete the podcast from last week. So yeah, I was saying just thank you. Thank you for your support, for your kind words. You've made me feel a lot better about wanting to talk about my knitting, even if there's not a lot of progress to be made. The reality is I enjoy editing the videos. I have fun with that. I'm sure you could tell that I have fun with that, maybe too much sometimes. But I wouldn't want to edit a video if I wasn't going to be able to do it in a fun way. And I wouldn't want to film a video if I wasn't going to be comfortable sitting down and chatting about what I want to chat about. So I feel fortunate that the community that we've pulled together here is one that I think we're all on the same page, where we just want to talk knitting. And I think we're starting a club here too, Snail Stitches, because apparently we're all really slow knitters. So good. Welcome to the Slow Knitters Club, Snail Stitches. Where we just try to get a little bit done on a project every week. Did I mention this was going to be chatty? It's going to be chatty. I just started knitting this. I'm just getting comfy today, guys. It feels good. It feels really good to just sit down and knit on something. It's been so busy, but another thing that I just wanted to talk about was everyone's a different style of knitter. For some people, they have to have multiple projects on the needles at once just to get by. Someone was talking about how they like having so many projects on the needles because then one day they're like all done at the same time and it's like a new wardrobe was born. I think I tend to be I don't know if visual person is even the way to put it. It's that I come up with these imaginations inside of my head and I can see the finished project or the finished object so vividly, and I can already picture the outfits that I'm going to wear with it. And so in my head, it's almost as if I already have it. So then what happens is every day I wake up and I go to get dressed and I'm like, oh, I wish I could wear my Corshavin cardigan. Guess I can't. It's not ready. And that's where then the frustration comes from. So when I have multiple projects on the needles at the same time, I think it feels like I go through that way more often, that sort of self-inflicted disappointment of, oh, like it's not ready yet, when it shouldn't be ready yet. But at least if I only have one project on the needles at a time, I feel myself working towards it being ready, and I can see that finish line the whole time. And it might just be one thing that I'm thinking, that might have been the perfect outfit to wear today, but pretty soon I'll have it. Whereas right now I'm like, oh, I wish I could wear my Ranunculus to that event, and I wish my Corshavin cardigan was ready because it'd be perfect for this dress I want to wear today. And then none of it's ready, and it's just all around disappointment. Disappointment all around, self-inflicted. No one else is asking for these things to be done but me in my closet. So that's the update on that. Again, like I said, I will list the timeline for this one over here for how long I've been working on it. But ultimately, I really just want this to be done before it's like too cold out to wear it, because it's very lightweight. But even if it's not, guys, like I'll wear it in the spring. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Okay, so the next project that I still have on the needles is my test knit, the Like pullover for Sorry Nordland. And this is actually, we're at an interesting time. So I'm filming this video on Tuesday, October 17th, which means that this test knit is due tomorrow, October 18th. The deadline guidelines for this test knit were that the body and a sleeve needed to be done by the 18th. totally seems reasonable. I've seen some people on Instagram who have finished theirs and they look so good. However, I was actually planning to finish my test knit stuff yesterday when all I had left, well, here, okay, this is where it's at. I'm getting ahead of myself. All I have left for the test knit, so again, that body and a sleeve, is the cuff of one sleeve, which I should be more careful with. And I'm just wrapping up the collar, which is a folded over collar. So I'm about halfway through that. So my plan was to finish this last night, the 16th, which would have just given me a little bit of wiggle room if I needed it today. And then it's due tomorrow. So that works out perfectly. And I haven't really had any issues throughout the test knit. Also, by the time you're watching this, the pattern should be live. Sorry, said that it would be out on the 19th. So I felt this pressure of the test knit deadline being the 18th, knowing that the pattern was going live the 19th, that I would consider myself like a bit of an overachiever or a perfectionist or someone who just wants to make sure I'm very thorough. And so I understand that the deadline is the 18th. That's the timeline that Sorry Nordland assigned this test knit, and she is giving herself from the 18th to the 19th to do whatever happens to make a pattern ready to go live. But if I were her, I would want a week between those two. So if anything happens on the 18th, there's time to address it. So last night I was knitting my way through the end of the sleeve and approaching the cuff when I ran into the first actual conflict in the pattern for my size, where the decreases going into the cuff just weren't adding up quite right to what they should have been. And so I knit it. This is going to sound so familiar. I knit what was written. I tanked. I knit what was written again. I thought, okay, I wasn't paying attention enough. I tanked. Then I started coming up with my own solutions of, oh, there must be a typo. I think this number is supposed to be this number. So then I tried that. That didn't work out either. I tanked back. But then I thought maybe I wasn't paying enough attention that time. So I did it again. And I tanked back. And this was happening over and over. And I was like, what is going on? Panic is setting in. So we went back to math camp. My boyfriend and I are sitting there because how many times do you hear someone say, I thought that there was an issue in the pattern. Lo and behold, it was me the whole time. And I really thought that was what was happening. I mean, I really didn't have issues the whole time. And we're 2 days away from the end of the test knit, and no one else has raised this question. However, it is only applicable to the largest 3 sizes in the pattern. So I'm thinking, like, maybe I missed something. I don't know what was happening. So I was trying to math and I'm drawing out. I drew out all of the stitches. Have you done this before? I drew on a piece of paper all of the stitches that made up the cuff. And I said, that is, sorry, see the alpaca, guys. Oh my gosh, it's so sheddy. So I drew out all the stitches that made up the cuff. And I said, okay, this is X amount of stitches. Now she wants me to decrease in this fashion. And I crossed out the stitches and pared them down to the 1 stitch it was and drew that out in my sequence. I said, okay, now I'm left with this many stitches. And I counted it up and I had too many stitches still left on the needles as to what I was supposed to have. So I had my boyfriend look at it. He did the math. He breaks it down in such a different way. And he's like, nope, that's not working out. basically, yes, you do still have stitches left over. Then we did the same math for the way I thought maybe the typo was, and even that wasn't working. And we spent like 2 hours doing this. And that was just the math. Not to mention the time that I spent knitting and tinking and knitting and tinking. And eventually I was like, what are we doing? I was like, it is not my job to figure this out. Oh, that was the other issue, was that there's going to be a piggyback off of this, but I reached out to the designer to let her know that something was up and that I needed guidance because I'm at a standstill as to what I should do with the decreases. And I checked the time and it was like 12:30 a.m. midnight in Finland. And I'm over here having this issue at 5:30 p.m. in Connecticut. So I had my whole evening dedicated to this cuff and it just went out the window. So we were just sitting there looking at this and I just had to stop and I was like, as a test knitter, it's not my job to rewrite the error. It is not my job to correct it. It's just my job to let the designer know that something's up and then wait. But I was like, wait, I'm sure we can figure this out. She only has a couple days before the pattern's released. Like maybe we can figure out what went wrong here. And we spent hours doing this, guy. I'm like, it's not my job. I don't know why. And I just want to be helpful. I'm like crying. This is so funny. This is so traumatizing last night. And I should have just stopped. Like when I noticed the issue, if I just stopped and said, she's not going to get back to you until it's a reasonable hour, her time, work on the other sleeve or the collar or anything, my time would have been so much better spent. And instead we did hours and hours of trying to figure this out and still couldn't. Because guess what? I'm not a knitwear designer. So I thought that was just kind of funny. But I'm sure by the time you're seeing this, the problem has been handled. I did touch base with the girl that has running this particular test knit, and she's getting to the bottom of it for me. This was so stressful yesterday, and it did not need to be. I do this to myself. I know that I do, and I'm trying to get better about that. But needless to say, it should be solved by the time you're seeing this. The pattern should be out by the time you're seeing this. Overall, I love the pattern. I love the way that it's knitting up. I enjoy the stitch pattern that creates the chevron stripes that you see. If you're intimidated by lace work or color work, I don't think that you should be intimidated by this pattern. It is a top-down drop shoulder construction in which you knit the back flat, then pick up the shoulders, work the body, pick up the sleeves and the neck. Your very typical drop shoulder construction. And the stitch pattern looks complex and beautiful when in reality it's made up of a 2-row sequence that is incredibly memorizable. I had it memorized by the time I was done with the swatch. And there's nothing, I think what's been tricky for me in the past with lace is when there's a lot of yarn overs involved. Those tend to, I don't do a great job of reading those on my needles. And I think that's where I run into issues. This doesn't have anything that looks unpredictable. I think if you know how to knit and purl, you can do this sweater. So do with that information what you will if you've been eyeing this. The one comment that I wanted to make, if you're a knitwear designer and you happen to be watching this, like, hey, thanks for being here. But this is only my second time doing a test knit. And everyone, of course, is going to have a different style of test knitting and the way that they run those things. And the only thing that I wanted to provide some feedback on about this test knit, and I would say it's especially something to note if you haven't done a test knit before. A lot of times what you'll hear people rave about with a test knit is the fact that it provides a community. It's like a little mini make-along. The first test knit that I did was run through Instagram, and it was so casual. It was all in the Instagram DMs. And as a problem would arise for someone, they would throw it into that Instagram chat. And it gave everyone not only a heads up that there might be conflict coming, or it gave everyone a chance to say, hey, actually, we've already passed that part, and I think maybe you should recount what you did because that worked out for me in the pattern. And the designer was always right there as quickly as she could be to handle any situations, let you know that your concerns were heard. And she worked with all of us on how to, if there was an issue with how something was worded, maybe it was confusing, she would present some options that we could all give her feedback on what made the most sense. And it just felt like a really nice system, a good community, very casual, but very easy and very attentive. This test knit is being run strictly through Google Docs, and it's professional or professional. And that makes sense because Sari Nordland is a huge designer who's got a lot going on. She's got tons of patterns coming out. There's other people hosting these test knits. So I understand the inner workings of this. My only gripe is that the way that we've been asked to handle conflict in the pattern is to highlight the section where we're having an issue and leave a comment on the Google Doc. And if that is in fact an issue that needs to be addressed, then they'll just change it. I understand streamlining the process by just going ahead and making the changes that need to be made if someone makes a problem or an issue, makes someone else aware of that. But you don't necessarily feel as though you're being heard, or you feel like, oh, should I also email them and let them know that I've hit this roadblock because I don't want to press forward without feeling like, sometimes you're just trying to justify or verify some information that doesn't look quite right. And there's so few issues. It's my only issue with the test knit. And certainly there was no sense of community or camaraderie because that wasn't part of this test knit. It was just a lot more professional. So that's my only little, like I said, gripe. If you've never done a test knit before, I don't know that I would say to jump on one that is strictly run through Google Docs, because I think that it can feel a little bit isolating. That's all. That's my context. Do with that information what you will. Overall, I love the pattern. I love my sweater. It's hysterical before it's blocked. I can't try this on right now because I'll have to put it on the tubes, and I'll try it on. I'll definitely do a before and after block, but it would just be too much to put it on the tubes right now. The ribbing, which, holy guys, I hate ribbing. I'm not a fan of knit purl. I'm an English style knitter. So that purl coming around the mountain every freaking time. Oh my gosh. And when you're doing this much ribbing, Look at all that. Holy cow, it's a lot of ribbing. I felt like I was ribbing for forever. I think I timed it, and I want to say it took 15 minutes a row. And I think it was 15 minutes a row. What did we math that out to? I think that it took me, was it an hour? Like 2 hours to knit 1 inch or something? Something crazy. And there's 6 inches of ribbing. This just took forever. I watched an entire series on Netflix while I knit this freaking ribbing. But that's one of my favorite things about the look of the pattern. So I had to obviously do it. I also, because there was such a significant amount of ribbing, decided to try a technique that I've heard other people use where you reverse your right side and wrong side of your fabric by beginning your ribbing with a quick German short row and turning your work so that the knit stitch that you're knitting is what's appearing as the purl on the right side, and you're knitting the wrong side knit. And then as you purl, you're knitting the knit stitch on the right side, and it's your purl on the wrong side. And people say all the time that that helps provide a more clean and even look. And I really feel like it did do a good job of that. If you look at the inside, my wrong side of my fabric versus the right side, it's a lot more neat. My tension tends to be a little bit more even. But yeah, right now, this better block out. I'll be devastated if I can't get this to block out, because right now the ribbing, if I hold it upside down, you can see it. It is just so cinched in. However, I did use Italian tubular bind off on this, and I made it a point to go up a needle size so that I could have a super stretchy bind off. And so this is what I'm going for. Look at that. I just really hope that the properties of this yarn allow this to stay blocked out this way. There's alpaca, silk, and wool, so I'm hoping that that's going to happen, but I am really pleased with the way that I did the bind off and made sure I kept it nice and loose so that I could get all of this stretch out of it, because yeah, the whole thing is just going to be like that. So this will definitely need a good soak and block. And I guess what's the worst case is that that doesn't happen and maybe it still is a little bit cinched. We'll address that if that becomes a thing. But yeah, so I've got needles on the sleeve waiting for my instructions to move forward on the cuff. I've got my needles in the collar, the neckband, so that I could hopefully get that done. We'll see. It's a folded and sewn collar, so hopefully by the end of the night I can at least just get to the end of the actual knitting and then worry about sewing that down tomorrow. And that all depends too on what and when I hear back about the cuff. But long story short, that is my week 8 pullover, making very good progress, I'd say. This is what happens when I just put my head down and work on one thing. And I get lost in this bubble and I enjoy my bubble. I'd like to live in the bubble, please. The monogamous knitting bubble is where I'm going to try to stay from now on. While I have this out, I also wanted to say that I had Kelly of Coco Knits reach out to me on Instagram. She said that she was watching the podcast, which was so excited. And she's the one who was the test knitter for Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea with her. I told you guys I would never remember that cardigan. Is it the Leith cardigan? I think it's the Leith cardigan. and had done the stripes with the plain wool versus the boucle. So she reached out and we were talking about the boucle and wool stripey thing and how I hopped onto her bandwagon. So that was pretty cool. Someone commented and said that my stripes looked like little clouds. And I don't know, I thought that was so sweet. So I think that this is my little cloud sweater. I just love that. So yeah, I don't know. It's just so cool. And I think that if you see a pattern where you're not crazy about doing contrasting color differences, but it's calling for color work, consider a different texture. I think it makes it really fun and low contrast, which is really nice. So that is where all of my whips are this week. Still making great progress, and I'm eager to get these things off the needles because I have some serious plans for the rest of the year. And I'm itching to get to them. So that's my reward, is once I've finished all of my whips, I can get to my other projects. So I think I will continue to knit primarily on one thing and use another as a backup. I'm going to say that the Korshavn cardigan is probably going to remain as the lowest priority on my list because it's the project that I actually imagine I'll get the most wear out of. So, and I feel like it will work throughout the winter. It's going to work throughout the spring. And I think I just have the most time to wear that. Whereas if I can get the ranunculus done before it gets really, really cold here, we're already here in Connecticut seeing those first signs of fall. And so it's starting to be sweater weather. And yeah, I just want to make sure that I got at least one day where I could wear that ranunculus before it gets too cold out and before I start my next fall project, or I guess it'll be winter project by the time we're there. So that's that on the whips. That's the update. I have an acquisition that's not a yarn acquisition, but I was really excited to find this. You guys know that I love a good thrift store adventure. And yes, I heard you. We will have a thrifted yarn tour, thrifted yarn stash tour as soon as I could put that together. That's what I'm very excited to do. So thank you guys for being excited too. So I can't wait to get to that. I'll definitely let you know when we do that one. In the meantime, I'll continue to update you weekly on my thrifting finds. I let you guys know last week that I just stop at the thrift store anytime I can. I will find that Goodwill and I will spend 5 minutes in it just to quickly scope it out. And this week I found something different. I actually found a purse. But when I show this to you, you're going to realize exactly why this was not going to be a purse to me, but rather a incredible project bag. Look at it. Okay, let's break this down for a second. First of all, Anna of Brook Willow Knits was talking about fall trendy colors, and one of them being this gorgeous like Bordeaux, oxblood, burgundy color. And that is exactly what this bag is. It has a drawstring and a like cotton canvas opening, and then it's just a big empty bucket bag. What blew my mind was that I bought this with the original tags still on it. It is in absolutely perfect condition. It even still had the packing stuff inside, and the original tag said it was from J. Crew. I looked it up and I found some similar options. It looks like this one isn't available anymore, but it looks like the original would have cost somewhere between $150 to $200. It is made out of genuine leather. You can smell the leather. So it's 100% leather other than the drawstring portion. And this is just like the perfect size project bag. Having 2 yarns that I'm holding together for my Like pullover, I've noticed that I've never been someone to have a project bag or even a little yarn cozy or any of those things before. But for the first time holding 2 yarns together, I feel like that's something that I could benefit from having for no other, and I think it's specifically because of the stripes, for no other reason than literally going from upstairs to downstairs and knitting on this. I wish I just had all of the yarn in the same place, and I usually just use my backpack to hold whatever my main project is, but I've been stuffing my ranunculus into my backpack because that works better as on-the-go knitting. So I haven't really had somewhere consistent to keep my Like pullover and all of the 4 balls of yarn that are associated with it. So this was just like the perfect find. I don't know. I was so shocked when I found it. And it's nice because it sits totally flat. Then you can open the drawstrings and work out of there. But I actually fit my entire Like as it is right now inside of this thing. So I could also very well take this on the go for just a super portable, quick and easy grab and go project bag. Because it has the drawstring on it, I can also kind of tie it in a bow and tie it to my backpack if I have something else in there and I just want to have this as its own entity. Love it. I got this, guys. It was $6. I'm a bargain girl. I just love it. And this is so my color. I love this color in the fall between this and an olive green. Sign me up. I think it's a cute purse, but an even cuter project bag. So who knew? J. Crew wasn't going to tell us that they were accommodating the knitters, were they? So that was a really fun find this week. And yeah, that was pretty much all I had. Let's talk about some things that are going on. The day that this is posting is going to be Saturday, the 21st, which means that it is officially Rhinebeck weekend. So if you are there right now, or if you're planning to go tomorrow, I hope that you have a great time. I hope you have some really great finds. I hope you get to sniff all of the yarn. I will still be making that decision last minute whether or not I'm able to attend. There's just a lot of variables at play, so I can't say ahead of time whether or not I'll be able to make it. However, if I do make it, I will do my best to get video and give you a little tour of a first-timer's experience at Rhinebeck. So that's super exciting. Hopefully we can get around to that, but no guarantees. This week, you may have seen that I posted a second video, which was the fall knitting trend that nobody is talking about. So if you haven't seen that one yet, now's a really good time to check it out before the fall is over. Although who the heck cares? You knit what you want when you want to. Yeah, that's kind of all that's going on. So it's Rhinebeck weekend. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of good hauls. I will say if I go to Rhinebeck, there will not be a haul involved. If I do make it, my plan is to hopefully look out for, I'd like to get some needle stitch stoppers, and really that's kind of all I'm looking for. If I can get my hands on some of the interchangeable needle organizers, just to give them a good touch, good feel, and just lay my eyes on them in person. I'm still looking for a good way to organize all of my needles, but I'm not ready to commit to something just yet. So I just want to kind of go give all of my options a good once over if I can find the time to do that. And who knows whatever else will catch my eye, but certainly I'm not going to put down a rent payment on my Rhinebeck tour. We'll see. We'll see what we get up to there. If I go, oh my gosh. I think that just about does it for this week, you guys. I want to say thank you one more time to those of you who have been participating in the hashtag Spooky Stitches 2023. Seriously, I don't know how many different ways I can say that you guys make my day in the way that we're able to engage and just build this little knitting family. It's been really awesome. That being said, too, as of today, let's do a quick check. I do my best to kind of ignore the YouTube numbers because YouTube is a mysterious and wild world. The Wild West out there, this YouTube thing. But it is fun to sort of have a quantitative way to see your growth and progress. And I take all of that with a grain of salt, but it's kind of fun and exciting to see that subscriber count change. It changes. It doesn't always go up. But as of right this moment when I'm filming, we have 2,993 subscribers. So there's a very good chance that by the time you're watching this, we've hit 3,000. And you guys know, I don't need to say it again, how much it means to me that you're here. I appreciate you. And I appreciate building I'm not going to say a little corner of the internet, but a little corner of the internet where we're all on the same page. We're team snail stitches. We are appreciating all of the imperfections in our projects that make them so perfectly handmade. And we're here to laugh and just hang out for the sake of our love of knitting. So thank you so much for being here if you have been. And if you are new, please consider hitting the subscribe button, the like thing, the bell thing, all those things that YouTube likes to know about. And if I could be so bold as to ask, if you wouldn't mind letting a knitting friend know about our little thing we got going on over here, it would mean so much to me if you would share this space with someone that you think would like it too. All that being said, typical, waffling on at the end of another podcast. Nothing new here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I will definitely see you next Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. as per the usual Saturday morning cartoon style, baby. Do you want to meet OC? I don't want to leave. I just got comfortable. I'll introduce you to OC to make up for this chatty podcast. Dun da da! Say hi, I'm OC and welcome to my podcast. You say hi? Say hi, I'm OC. This is also known as OC Knits. She hates being on camera. Anyway, big ol' thanks for watching. See y'all next week. Bye!